Welcome to the next episode of Extraordinary Leadership Podcast. I'm thrilled today to share with you Andreas Beust, dynamic and passionate leader and CEO of GCP Services, the organization that is making an impact in clinical trials industry. Andreas is one of those extraordinary leaders and amazing human beings that I had the pleasure to work with and guide in navigating his organization to the next level. In this episode, he's sharing his story and discoveries and shifts in the last month's transformational journey that helped him to be more impactful and successful as a leader and foster more unity, empathy, and connection in his organization. This conversation will leave you with a lot of inspiration and insights. So let us start it. Welcome to the Extraordinary Leadership Podcast. This is a place for you if you aspire extraordinary, fueled with inspiration, meaningful conversations, and valuable insights that are going to support your journey of becoming an extraordinary leader and making truly a difference in your organization and living a desired life. My name is Dagmar Asbrook, and I am your host in this show, and I'm also founder and CEO of Extraordinary Leadership. I'm bringing you exceptional leaders, change makers from different industries, sharing their stories, and above all, what made them most successful, impactful, and happy. I'm also sharing my discoveries from navigating and leading 15 years in a corporate world, building my business, and empowering senior and executive leaders to go to their next level with their organizations and in their lives. I hope that you are excited and ready. So let us begin. Let me introduce to you and welcome Andreas on the show.
Thank you, Dagmara. It's an absolute pleasure. How much I enjoyed working with you, and it still do, and all the conversations we've had. I love sharing perspectives and also partaking in stories and learning from other people around me. And I try to contribute as I can. And so it is a pleasure to be here with you today and just have a discussion around leadership and growth and how to make a better impact.
Cool. And how do you feel to be in this podcast now in a completely different setting than we had before, right? A different type of conversation.
Feels slightly more formal, but it feels familiar enough to be quite nice. And also, I'm fortunate enough to appear on a number of podcasts here and there, especially over the last half year, I would say. And so, it's a pleasure.
That's true. That's true. So I'm with an experienced podcaster, right? So that's good. So before we dive into this discussions about leadership, discussions about impact and success and how to make an impact, actually, tell us about you. And I would like to actually that you share what you would like listeners to hear about you, know about you.
Oh, well, I think the most important piece for me is how enthusiastic I am myself and how passionate I am around sharing and helping other people grow. That truly resonates a lot for me. And I think that impacts what I'm doing and where I'm going quite a lot. And so in the context of everything that we are discussing, the fundamental driving force for me in a lot of things is personal growth to be able to support others better. That is really important for me. And basically being a positive difference maker for others that I care for, that I have the opportunity to accompany through a part of their lives. That's really something that I truly enjoy, that I'm passionate about. And hence any opportunities such as these as well, where I might have a small chance of making a positive impact on someone's life or inspiring or at least provoking thoughts and giving means of reflection are very welcome to me. And similarly, I really enjoy always being put in positions where I can change my own mindset and I can reflect on what I may have potentially falsely believed to be true before, and where I can find myself coming to conclusions and thinking in certain patterns because of what I have experienced in the past. So
making a positive impact and dedication to growth. I think those are the two things that I'm really hearing. Would you say are those two words that described you as a person, or is there another word that you would choose to to say that describes you best?
I mean, it's really, I'm a rather enthusiastic person, in very positive also. I mean, sure, there are good and bad days, but, above all else, I think, if I had to give myself a superpower, which I already have, or describe one that I already have, it would really be the enthusiasm for what I do. And that I really see the positive in the things that I'm able to touch, and try to make the best out of. And so that I think, yeah, usually can be found out quite easily when you engage with me.
Yeah, and it is actually a pretty important virtue for a leader, characteristic of a leader, because yes, there are quite a lot of challenges that we need to turn into opportunities and bring our team alongside, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So, I guess our listeners would love to hear kind of sitting probably on edge to hear, like, Andreas, how did you make it? 5 years in a company. And if I'm correct, that was the very first job that you had, right? The very first organization that you worked into. So
Yeah.
what has helped you to, or what has contributed to stepping into a CEO in such a fast time?
I mean, as I think with many things, there is a proportion of luck or opportunity. Obviously, if the circumstances were different, or if I had joined the company 10 years earlier, I'm sure that would not have been my path at the time. But it aligned that the owner and founder of the company was, as I joined the company, he had already made up his mind to spend another 5 years and then find someone else that can take over the role, and basically bring a renewed perspective into driving the company forward, especially since the field we're working in, clinical research, is so fast evolving at times. At times also very conservative, but overall, a lot of things develop here as well. And so the opportunity was there, and the opportunity, of course, also presented itself for others. And so the question in the end is also, there has to be a contributing factor, I guess, down the line. I would always say, I say yes to a lot of things, and that can be a detriment, but it also help in a lot of manners. I am fortunate to, I think, have a good hand in grasping concepts quickly and breaking them down easily, which helps in conversations, especially with clients. And so being put in a role where I'm, let's say, portraying the company also outwards, this really helps, that I can more swiftly grasp these concepts and utilize them to consult with our clients, make a first contact. And I think that was seen very swiftly. And I was just in a very fortunate position to be in a company that values even non-conventional pathways into the industry, and really sees the potential in the people. Because obviously there could be a strive for someone that is older, that has more experience, or that is more from a business side. But from the beginning, the strength of myself and of everyone else were always seen as something to truly leverage and something to bring forward. And yeah, Andreas Grund, our founder, really had a hand in that, in talent management and in lifting people up to grow and to become better at what they are already good at, and leveraging those strengths. And I've been fortunate to find my way into such an environment and such a fantastic company.
Amazing. Yeah, it's really nice to work in an organization that nurture growth and lift others up, and obviously fantastic opportunity for you to step into such an important role, leading your organization, and obviously mentioning some of the talents. I hear some shyness about really the rest, but yeah, I can imagine, of course, grasping and being able to have that meaningful conversations with clients is important. And Andreas, not everybody knows your industry, so and company, but what, like me say, a couple of points, a couple of characteristics that describe the industry that you're working in, that your company is also navigating in?
Yeah, so we are a CRO, a contract research organization, which means that somewhere between the idea and the concept of a drug or a medical device that can treat a condition, prevent a condition, modulate our health, basically, and lead to a betterment in our physical status or treatment of ailments. And this is a heavily regulated environment. And that means there's a lot of knowledge that's required. There's a lot of logistics around it. And really, that can be quite intensive, especially from a human resource point of view. And so a lot of the work done in this space is outsourced to these contract research organizations, which supports the manufacturers of study drugs or of medical devices in bridging that path and generating that information in experiments with humans under, again, tightly controlled conditions. And in that space, we're working. So as a service provider, we don't have our own product. We have processes, we have experience, we have people. And basically those we leverage to bring something to the client of value, which they don't have. And that can either be manpower, it can be expertise. And that's really where we shine and where we work with a lot of small to mid-size companies, sometimes larger, and that all eventually strive to have an impact on our healthcare.
What is the most challenging in leading this organization for you?
Well, I mean, at the end, there's obviously, let's say, economical sides to it, strategic sides to it, that require you to reflect a lot. But at the end, I think there are two key challenges. And one is obviously time management, as everyone will always say, is like, what do you prioritize to which way? How do you deal with the day-to-day while making enough room for strategy, for thinking ahead, for painting the big picture, without neglecting some of the day-to-day that you should take care of, that you should make time for as well. So that balance on the time aspect is one element of it. And the other is that, again, we don't have a product. So what is really pivotal, I mean, even that aside, what is pivotal and what is always pivotal is to really bring forth the most in the people, because we can do the best. At the end, I talk with our clients, sure, but the people that talk much more with our clients is everyone in the teams that are then working on the projects. So it is so important that everyone feels like they can be an ambassador for GCP Service, that they identify with the company, with our values, with the way that we approach the trials, and themselves feel like, they should consult, not execute, and really bring forth that spirit, this GCP Service mindset. And that's so important. And that is, it requires a lot of effort and thoroughness in thinking about how to approach it and how to unite such a diverse team also across country borders, because we have 7 locations. We have 27 nations represented at GCP Service. So the diversity is also very high, and we see that as a strength. But you can't just say, oh, we are so diverse, and that's the end. It means we need to work on still aligning ourselves, not despite our difference, but embracing our differences and getting the best out of that. And that really cannot be underappreciated, how much effort that should really take to be efficient.
Yeah. So I feel when you're sharing that is this so strong coming focus on employee centricity towards service of the clients, right?
Yes.
So when I'm hearing what you say, it's like embracing really that both are important. And in order to reach our clients, in order to serve our clients, we absolutely need you as a leader above all, right? And all leadership team needs to put emphasis on unleashing the potential, developing people, making sure that they are their agent, as you mentioned. And yeah, that's really admirable to hear, because that's the shift. Very often companies or leaders are focusing on customers and then secondary. And I have a feeling that you kind of flip it around, which obviously is serving your success as well. What does it mean for you, Andreas, to be a successful leader?
Yeah, for me, that at the end, it's around uniting a diverse group of people behind a joint goal. Ultimately, that's that. To create an environment in which each individual has their own unique place and their own unique contribution to the whole, but it aligns and moves in the same direction. And this direction is fostered and people are realigned to one unified motion and one unified direction. And that for me really makes a successful leader, someone that can inspire that drive of each individual also to pursue that joint goal rather than their own individual ones, which or will always slightly differ, but to have that, aptitude to not only formulate your own vision, but also to communicate it in such a way that it can unite a group behind them and eventually has that effect that the people are joining together on the larger path ahead.
Maybe you can give an example of what is most challenging or has been most challenging to you.
So I think so naturally, and I was told so also very early on when I took on the first department here with a smaller team, there is going to be, irrespective of whether you want it or not, and just to state it, I don't want it, but there is going to be a difference and a felt distance between yourself and the team. Because it's a slightly different position that you take as you take on a leadership role. And it is very easy that everyone, I think, has that thought of, but I want an open door policy and I want to be approachable. And I can leave my door open and that's not going to make a difference whether people come in and talk to me or not. And I'm not saying I have the right solution for it, or I'm at the point where I say everything is working well on that end. But finding means of, despite that distance, somehow connecting with the people and still having an open ear and moving about, I think is really important. And the one advice that Andreas Grund gave to me always in terms of engaging with people was that he spent always a lot of time also walking around and talking with people. And I know that I don't is nearly enough. Although I've made it more of an emphasis moving through to talk with the people, directly close to me on a more regular basis as well. And I'm still very open to discussing with everyone else, but just creating opportunities and not waiting for people to approach you. That is, I think, really important. Because there will always be that barrier, that threshold to walk over. Even if the door's open, there is a jump that needs to happen. And finding means to make that easier, providing opportunities for people to come and approach you and exchange. That's something that I think we can always strive for. And that's something that at a certain point you cannot do for everyone. But you need to instill that type of thought into the people around you so that they can extend it and create a culture where this is the norm and where this threshold is easier. And then you will feel the ripple effect through the organization. I think that's the important piece to sort of like keep in mind and push for. And always reflect also if you are still doing it right, if there's enough emphasis put on it.
Yeah. So I'm hearing that you started to implement that, not only.
Yes. Yeah. Also, on a sharing very vulnerably also. I think that is something that is sometimes can be scary, especially if you do it to a larger crowd, but also showing your own fears or your own failings and openly talking about it creates an environment in which people feel more open to connect back with you on exactly these points. And I give weekly updates to the entire company, also to connect with them and keep them updated on what's going on, because that can easily get lost in home office and many multiple locations. But also I can use these opportunities to then share just where I'm struggling with. And there's always surprising feedback and resonance of people that come back to me and just connect back, which they would probably not have if I hadn't shared on exactly these points, or maybe on others. And especially for some people who may find the barriers a bit higher, I've felt that this sometimes helps in opening a door and just allowing someone to send a Teams message or give me a call that they would otherwise not have. And so this creating opportunities where I share my own vulnerability and inviting people to also then do the same from their end, that has for me made a change in how well I can connect.
And I know that you have started this interesting and inspiring videos, right, to people. So I
Right.
remember that actually at the beginning when we connected, right?
Yeah.
And then started to experiment with when voicing as you speak. So what did you notice that started to shift things to sharing vulnerable and connecting with people through that? So what in practical terms started to change?
There are more opportunities now. And again, many people also naturally will not come to me and discuss these things, but, might discuss, amongst one another, or might feel more open to share. If, the CEO is vulnerable, they might feel more ease to share also stuff like within the team leads, or if the team leads can then open up for the department leads can open up more readily, their teams will also do it. And so this is really where I don't want to claim responsibility for that in any means. I think it's a very organic development, and many people are involved that are moving in that direction. But I feel that openness, the willingness to discuss issues and problems that you have, and the just even wanting to open up because you feel you're going to be heard, is really important. And I always had a feeling we were already quite good as a company with it in many cases, but there were some differences also between teams, between departments, between leaders. And at the moment, I love the team, and they're doing really great. And I feel there's a really strong connection in a lot of the people that also grew and shifted through also the activities that we implemented in-house.
Yeah. So I can hear and sense that connection, creating connection, human connection in your organization is pretty important for you, and that also you want to break through this distance, manage the balance. You mentioned there needs to be a balance. However, you want to kind of be proactively reaching out. And from your story, from your sharing, it's a great example of nurturing the psychological safety in organization, trust. Because basically by you opening up first as a leader, and especially kudos for making it, in the videos and appearing like that to the whole organization, not just to one or two leaders or two people, right?
Yeah.
Straight ahead, right? With your enthusiasm and passion.
Yeah.
And it's, as you say, create a ripple effect, because this is where other people feel safe to actually open up, as you are sharing your experiencing, right? People trust to open up with topics that maybe have been uncomfortable to talk about, because they feel safe that they can do that because you are doing that. And of course, by that also you invite to co-create that connection with you. And that's kind of a fundament and source of a collaboration. So it's amazing way and idea that you already started. Yeah. And vision was a big part of your journey. So I'm kind of swiftly joining her. Before we go to that piece, maybe let me ask you, what was the trigger point to decide to, engage an executive coach like myself, before maybe even knowing myself or when we came to the conversation? But what was the trigger point to tell you, oh, I want to step into that journey?
So, truth be told, it was really a spur of the moment decision at the end, to a degree that it even dissatisfied my wife a bit. My wife is a psychologist, and we were. She was like, why didn't you discuss, like, you're getting a coach and you didn't discuss anything with me before? And I understand that, but really it was so spontaneous that I didn't even, it felt right. We had conversations and it felt right at the moment. But obviously, even before that, I had made a decision to even, start a conversation, and I even entertained the thought before. And ultimately that comes back to what I feel my role is, not only here, but in life in general. And that's, if it's to grow and become a person that is tomorrow going to be in a better position to serve others than I am today, it means I need to grow, I need to develop. And I have made quite quick steps up the career ladder and into leadership positions that despite having a personal counselor, so to say, at home, and despite, I think, having a good structure already and reflecting on myself and having a partner that helps me reflect together with her, I felt like I wanted to get outside input to help me to ensure that I grow as fast as I can, because the faster I grow, the faster I can move into a position where I can be a better help and a better support for the people around me. And I have more responsibility, means I need to take care of more than 100 people here. And I don't want to let them down by saying I am too cautious or I don't invest enough time into my own development. And so for me, it was clear that if there is a chance, I can develop myself better to be a better CEO for the people of this company and to be a better support for them, then I should take it. And there is nothing I can lose. The least I can do is develop in that direction, which I would have developed anyway. But there's a lot of upsides in terms of how I can grow, how I can reflect on myself. And yeah, I mean, we connected quite well. And it was a lot of fun discussing with you. And you ask a lot of very nice questions that push the reflection. I think that really resonated so nicely with me, because that's exactly what I need out of it, like being asked the right questions to find my way forward in a more streamlined manner. And that just worked out from our first interactions. And so it was a gut decision, but one that felt very right.
Yeah, that's one of those intuitive decisions. We do not let our logical mind to take over, which is fantastic. And yeah, I love that you mentioned the fact that the driver behind to even entertain the thought, as you said, to get an external person was the desire, and it's because you are a growth driven leader, right? A desire to be a better version, to serve better to others. So again, that servant type of leadership, that impact driven leadership that you have within yourself, which is, I guess, a gift for the organization that you're leading and the people that you're leading. And I could personally seen that in action, because yes, we had also an occasion to meet in a group context with one of your streamer of a key team also in your organization. I could see how they receive your message, how they basically respond, and how much you inspire them. So I think it's really beautiful to see. Were there any areas for you that at the beginning of the journey you thought, okay, I want to be that better version of myself. I want to step into being that more extraordinary leader, whichever now we take. Were there particular areas that you wanted to lean in, to grow into, so that you can be of better service for your team, for your organization?
Yeah. You touched upon it a bit early already when we talked about vision, and that was really for me a key thing along the journey, because again, for me, to be a successful leader, you need to have a clear enough vision for yourself and then be able to communicate it outwards, because any vision that you just hold in yourself cannot have any impact. And for me, it was really around that clarity and a structured way of identifying what is really important for me. As I highlighted earlier, I'm a very enthusiastic person, and what I'm doing now is much different from what I did before. But even there, I was very enthusiastic about everything that I do. And so at times it can be, of all the things that I would love to do, like really understanding what are the key priorities and what is the big goal. What do all of these have in common that I can really use as an anchor to much more closely focus in on where I want to move. And that's something that is so easy to lose in a day-to-day, and where I was really in need to identify much more clearly for myself personally first, and as an extension then also for the company and for our future, a vision, and then in the third step, work on communicating it with much more clarity. But that starts with my own clarity and how the company's vision also connects with my own one. And this is something where there was a big need to strive and move forward. And it was lovely having your support on it.
Yeah. And what this clarity evoked in you? Because I'm hearing the word clarity. So how is that now impacting your leadership? If you just translate it into your the impact actually.
Yeah.
So gaining clarity as well of what is
So
most important there. Mm.
for me, it's the consciousness of my decision making, because we all make thousands of decisions every day, and we don't really think about the vast majority of any of them. So a lot happens subconsciously, and
Mm.
having clarity in our actions, or especially having clarity in my action, helps me drive that decision making in a way that is aligned with the overall visions and goals. And that can easily be lost if you do sort of like, micro decisions here and there and there and there all the day.
Mm.
And for me, in many areas of my life, I have found that I can create anchors for myself that help me swiftly pull my vision back and see the bigger picture. And the clarity in the vision has really helped impact that decision-making process and the alignment of everything that I'm doing to the bigger self. Because if every time you need to basically see, does it align with this obnoxious cloud of that is my vision, it's really difficult to understand where in it you go. But if you have a North Star to really align everything to, then it suddenly becomes quite easy to just take the step back. It's like yes or no, it's aligned, is not aligned. And I believe that has already a positive impact, and it's something that I need to obviously still grow into and be even more aware of, and find it even easier to move into. And at the end, it's a lifelong journey, and I'm also still young, so it's going to be something that I really look forward to continuing to incorporate at the level that I do, and even more so than that.
Cool. So I'm hearing the aspect of alignment, the focus, and I guess also time. I mean, not losing your time, right? Because when we take the actions which are in alignment, which are kind of alignment of what we want to, who we want to become, right? And what impact we want to make, then we don't need to waste the time in overthinking. And is that the right thing? Is not the right thing? So it's also speed, which obviously for every leader is time, as you mentioned at the beginning, is like this pressure commodity, right? In business, and definitely for every leader as well. And maybe you want to share of what was the particular aspect of this vision, because when we think about making, creating your own vision, people might have a completely different meaning or interpretation of what vision is. And yes, there is a business vision and a leadership vision, and it's kind of holistic vision. So what would you say was special about creating that vision and in the format that we've made it?
So before we created it, when we talk about vision, it always for me had a very tangible level of like near-term goals, which I can like check off a to-do list and then can 100% sort of like measure that success. But that's more the mission part that is associated to the vision. The vision is the big picture part, and more of the deeper connection to the value and the concepts in life that are of high importance to me, like supporting people and sharing my message and sharing sort of like my perspective with others, as well as having opportunity to tap into the perspective of others myself. And those are things that in the grand scheme of things, I didn't think were going to be an outcome of the vision creation process, but it felt very natural as you guided me through that process of thinking about it. And it helps take a step back, because everything else that can be checked off a to-do list, there are so many things that are not on the to-do list, but still have a priority or are connected to the vision. Should they then be deprioritized? How do you juggle that? And so finding that macroscopic view first, and then from that deriving more tangible goals in the short term, made a lot of sense in hindsight. But it was not what I was expecting when I first went in and said, okay, let's have a discussion around the vision. So this was really enlightening.
Yeah, I think that was a shift by itself, right? And indeed, because it's that alignment. You mentioned that word, is that alignment of who you really want to be, or who is that higher version of yourself that you want to evolve to. which actually, the way I see it, it's is the way how you can become the extraordinary leader and how you can make the bigger impact, because essentially it's about who are you becoming along the journey of your life and leadership that is going to make the difference. It's not only what you want, right? And what you put on that vision.
Yeah.
That's the most important work. And I guess it's also combining with the authentic brand, right? When we are aligned with ourselves as leaders, we basically show up differently because we also show up in alignment with our values, right? What was most important for us. So we make choices of how we consciously, as you mentioned, consciously show up and take decisions and show up in conversations. I remember we had also another that was actually very recent, a very interesting session where things just shifted like that. Maybe you want to talk about that and what is behind the scenes, because I think that's another very important aspect for every leader to pay attention on, which is your state, shifting your state. And we had such a wonderful experience not so long time ago about that.
Yeah. And that was a really nice session. And I made it a point to share that exact experience also with the wider company, because for context, so we had a session. It was not too long ago, a couple of weeks back, and fundamentally I went into it and we discussed how things were going, and I realized how stressed, how my mindset was really under pressure at the time of the session. Quite different than before. And if I looked back just 6 weeks prior to like the beginning of the year, in a situation where in both weeks we had a lot of project requests, there were a lot of things going on, very positive things. It's always nice if people want to work with you. But at the time of our meeting, my mindset saw a lot of the negatives, the pressure points in it, in something that is so fundamentally important and valuable to the business that we are doing and supporting the livelihoods of everyone here in the company, which I found was so inspiring and energetic at the beginning of the year. And simply the same person 6 weeks later found it quite distressing, didn't know how to start and tackle it just 6 weeks later. And it took only a few minutes of mentally resetting back to baseline and then basically reevaluating the situation, seeing again the positives in the same way that it did at the beginning of the year, and then with renewed energy and focus and clarity, tackling the tasks ahead in a structured manner. And that was, again, a very profound highlight of how if you slow down in the right moments, it helps you speed up afterwards and have a much better focus down the line. Because I could have continued working in the wrong mindset for another couple of hours, but rather taking half an hour to reset, 10 minutes to reset, 5 minutes to reset. If you do it well enough and structured enough, you can do it that quickly. Really helps shift the mindset and therefore also the results and the quality. And if it's only working on project requests, that's one thing. Quality can be there. If it's working with humans, you need to also be able to emotionally connect to them. And if you yourself are drained, you cannot do it. So in these moments, it's even more important to take a step back, realign, recenter, and focus what and how you want to show up towards another valued member of your team. What's the mindset out of it and how much you want to support it, and also be able to embrace their position rather than just saying, I need a solution now and rush through. So this was really profound in understanding how important it is to make space for mental hygiene for everyone, and especially for people that are bombarded, and everyone is at a certain point, be it privately or at work, by a lot of things. Just take your time to reset, because you're going to benefit from it. That was really a profound lesson to be learned.
Yeah, and I love that you said slow down to speed up, and I can very much resonate myself with it, because I happen to work with people that are like-minded a bit, right? So we share those similar type of patterns and challenges. Like this one is evident of we trying to be into the busy mode, right? And as sharing some hyperachiever tendencies, right? To want to make bigger and more and stretch ourselves. And so I know my journey as well has been a trail and error, and I'm actually much, much better myself with it now, but it has been up and down. And this, what you mentioned, is so important for leaders, for every leader. And honestly speaking, every leader I work with is going through that transformation, through the inner shift and through that comprehension and establishing the ways of how we can actually create that space. I love mental hygiene, as you mentioned, so that we basically operate on a most productive way. We are clear-headed, we are present, we show up the way we want. And above all, in that session, that's what shows up. We shift perspective. As you mentioned, nothing changed. Your perspective changed,
Yes.
your state changed, your energy changed, your emotion changed. So I was wondering, of course, apart from this session, which, yes, that stayed in my mind for sure, there are things that you do, right, in order to keep your mental hygiene. Maybe you want to mention one of the things that helps you to be in that right state as a leader.
Yeah.
And maintain that mental hygiene, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of it is how you show up from the morning, and I don't mean getting up at 4:30 and then having an hour of meditation, like you see in a lot of self-proclaimed thought leader postings on the internet. It can be integrated nicely, but to having basically a mantra on how you want to show up for the day, and just recentering, and this is how I would like to approach my life and the world and everything around me today, can be a surprisingly powerful tool to set you up in the right direction in the morning. Going in without a clear structure or a plan or focus, or and I don't mean tasks, but mindset of like, in which manner do I want to approach what I want to be doing today? Open and inspired, or I just need to get it done and stressed. So that there is a change in how you approach your task, and also how much they end up weighing on you, even though it's the same task, if you tackle them from a different perspective. And having, let's say, a mantra that pushes me into more of an, I want to approach all my tasks open in an exploratory manner and looking for the positives in them. Like, repeating that to me in the morning sets me up for the day. And then during the day, setting myself up and having fixed time points where I can say, okay, should I pause and reset myself now, or am I good to go for a bit more? That's really good, because it can drop from having 15 meetings in a row. It's really difficult to make that space. So like, being conscious about it is and planning in prospectively space that you may or may not need. Those are really good and easy and non-time consuming tools to implement into a day.
Yeah, and I have to smile when I hear you saying about the mantras. I feel like proud when you mentioned that. This is the whole point of intentionality, right? In terms of helping you to set in a state. Yeah, and it can be other things like centering yourself, meditation. So different people do that in a different way. And I think that the other important thing you mentioned is also checking in, because we can be really good into developing this morning routine where we are still in so-called alpha brain waves, when there's not so much distractions right around the world. So we can kind of control that, right? We can kind of plan that most of the time. And of course, it's the challenging part goes during the day, when basically it's becoming hectic. So as you said, planning that in calendar definitely, and sticking to that, right? And taking that conscious moments, which do not take so much into bringing clarity actually to your mind as well, and giving yourself, your body, a break as well, so that you can operate at a clear level as well. And my last question goes to, I know that in our journey, there was also a very important aspect was about empathy. And you mentioned about how important connection is for you. And the way we expanded the empathy, right, territory, which is so important for leaders, was understanding a mind and emotions and all of that, and others' perspectives. So what do you take away from our journey in terms of importance and how to activate actually empathy? What's the role of empathy? How to activate it as a leader?
Well, I mean, for me, I always believed, probably given the contrast to my wife, which also, I mean, works in a field where fundamentally you need to be very empathetic with your patients as a psychotherapist. The difference always had me believe that it's not so easy for me to tap into, let's say, or to take the position of the person on the other side. Maybe because I didn't feel like I so strongly personally felt the things. I could resonate and rationalize the positions, and but in fact, through that journey, I've learned for myself that it is. There is no. First of all, there is no, you should feel this way if you empathize. It is more that there are ways, especially if you're in the right mindset before you move into a conversation, to be open to the position of the other, to be open to what the other person feels and how their situation may impact their position, their perspective, and how this will definitely have an impact on how how a situation emotionally resonates with them, and that your emotions are not more right than the other person's, but eventually both of them impact behavior, your own and that of the other person, and how you show up to another person can either inspire and motivate them and help them move forward, or it can alienate them and push them away from you, which may not entirely be what you want. But it's around identifying, not even identifying, but I guess being and remaining curious around what the other person even wants off of you, and but also being honest with yourself, whether that's what you can give that person in this moment, or whether there is a better time and space where your mind's at the right place. Just reflecting on that in the moment, being conscious of it, that is a really important key along the journey, because that all happens subconsciously, and the easier it is to think about it, the better you can react to the situation and not be guided by the default setting, which will always be the subconscious one. And that's really this consciousness on that emotional side of things, of finding it easier to tap into that side. That's really what we worked a lot on.
Yeah, and it was an interesting, right? Coming from a belief that you can't actually be empathic, right? That you are very highly rational, and yet indeed we all have that resources. So, and thank you for also sharing, the importance of curiosity in the other person. I think I hear you repeating the very important word, which is being conscious.
Yeah.
Conscious taking decisions, conscious preparing. And I was just wondering, what is the one practical tip that the person that want to build, or leader that want to be more empathic, that you would advise them now based on your experiences? Where maybe you can start?
Yeah, for me, the biggest piece personally was, or the most impactful, profound one has always been because I'm very prone to search for solutions, and that approach kills the empathy side, because then it's only on the operational moving forward and leaving a situation. It can feel like you want to leave the situation, which is maybe not what you even want. What's your intention? But even just only being focused on finding a solution can simply brush past any of the emotions. And so for me, the most valuable piece was to first make room and space to understand, or to get a feeling of what the other person feels and wants and where they are at, before you even try at all to go into the solution direction. And if you do, ask them if this is what they want. And I'm not saying always, because that there's no black and white. It's situational, of course. But if you want to have that emotional impact as well, then just focus on the other person, listen to what they want first, and don't be in your own head, like trapped finding solutions, because this is what you'll be thinking about. Try to just take in, observe, and that can be very uncomfortable, because it means coexisting in an emotional space without the outlet of solutions, and that needs just work.
Yeah, what helps you exactly in those moments to manage your emotions? Because I'm hearing that one is this intentionality and creating a conscious space for first understanding, getting curious. That is such a powerful, piece of advice for everybody. And then comes the
Yeah.
piece of managing your emotions in the moment. So what
Yeah.
helps you
No,
to not jump and take over or lead maybe in a direction that
accepting
doesn't
that
work?
all emotions are fine and good, that everyone has emotions. I think the fundamental, that I, as a more hyper-rational person, was there. It's that emotions are not good, and therefore you want to move away from them as quickly as possible, and that alienates people from you. And reminding yourself that it's very natural to feel emotions, and that they are not a source of evil, but they simply exist and are an expression of someone's state of mind, is fine. And that, being uncomfortable with it, that's an emotion, and that's also okay. And you can acknowledge it, and you can also acknowledge at the same time that the other person is also not feeling happy in such a situation, may feel angry or frustrated, and that's okay. And validate the other person's feeling first, and then take the next step.
Yeah. Creating that space, I hear the acceptance that, yes, that's part of us. That's part also of business conversations, right? Because a lot of leaders do not push away, suppress, don't talk about that. But that's where you actually completely miss on connection, which obviously for you is a pretty important piece to your leadership journey. And that's another way of how do you actually create that connection, by creating space for, having human talk, right?
Yeah.
Human conversation before the business conversation, we can say, and also accepting that emotions are part of the game. And actually in your case, being courageous with it, right? Leaning in despite feeling uncomfortable, which is a courage. So what would you say, reflecting on this journey that was for you, pretty important, what I've heard from vision, for clarity, for direction, for acting consciously, for getting to the tools on how you can manage and first getting the awareness and then getting the tools on how you can manage your state so that you can be more productive and best self. And a third, to have some breakthroughs around empathy and how to be more empathic leader and build that connection. So why would you say, to other leaders, getting on such transformative journey is important or of value for them, for any leader?
Well, first, I would say it is good to distance yourself from an expectation towards an outcome. At least for myself, that helped. If you feel working on yourself is all about results, and that's the only thing that matters, it can negatively impact the journey. And this is, it's such a journey of, let's say, self-discovery or self-development. It's never linear, and it doesn't always go at a planned speed. And sometimes it's faster and you have breakthroughs, and then it slows down and you're not exactly sure in which direction you're moving. And that can create pressure that at the end hampers that development. So despite a lot of people that will seek such a journey are very result oriented, very driven, much like myself, and that needs work. So I would invite everyone that departs on such a journey to simply be open for the experience, to, let's say, relinquish a certain level of expectation that it should go a certain way, and rather enjoy the journey, and be open to any inspiration or solution from whichever direction it may come that helps you become a better version of yourself.
Yeah, beautiful. And it is, because transformation is never linear. And there's so many quantum leaps and unexpected moments. And the more you kind of lean in to be open for that, the better at the end results comes, right? Not always in the way that you imagine.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I think we had so much rich insights in this conversation, Andreas, about, importance of the vision, for leaders, importance of managing your state, importance for being empathic, for building connection, especially when you are on such a high level of leadership, right? Where things can be so far. And above all, I sense this beautiful strategy and focus on empowering people, developing people, as well as serving for the community, for customers, and for the world. So really, kudos for being such an extraordinary leader. And I want to ask you, what is maybe the last message that you have towards the listeners, leaders, business owners, executives? What would you like to leave the listeners with today?
For sure that you should always take care of your team first. And they will take care of your customers. They will take care of your business. Things will fall into place as long as you make a conscious effort to create an environment in which everyone within the organization can strive to be the best self. And that's your job to do as a team lead, as a business owner, as someone who has people in their care. Make that a priority. There's nothing you can do that will midterm, long-term outpace really taking good care of your people. So make sure you don't deprioritize that.
Beautiful. Yeah, it is an important message. And I said you mentioned before. So thank you very much, Andreas. Maybe last question is how people can connect with you. If maybe Tom would like to have an advice or another conversation with you, or maybe possible customers, who knows, or for the possible candidates.
Yeah, I mean, you can always reach out to me. I think most consistently on LinkedIn. Probably that's the platform where I'm sharing my experience and my journey also most frequently. And I'm always happy. Just send me a connection request and I certainly get back to you. And otherwise, I don't know where this will air. So my email can also be put up there. It's not a problem. I'm again always happy to and open to have a conversation because sharing that part of a journey and participating in other people's journey and learning from them is so important to me that always feel free to reach out, and I'm sure I can always manage something.
Super. So I'll put a link as well in our podcast. And I want to finish that with saying thank you. Thank you, of course, for your time and for your vulnerability into sharing about your leadership story, your leadership journey, and what helped you. And also, I would like to say thank you for, standing for or taking ownership for your growth, because that's such an important characteristic of extraordinary leaders, because that actually is the birthplace of everything in leadership and the impact that we wanted to make. And I wish you, of course, all the best. And I know that you're part of a community of extraordinary leaders. So looking forward to see you there, contributing, growing, and staying in touch. And thank you for now. And I'm wishing you a wonderful day.
Thank you, Dagmara. It was lovely.
Thank you for listening and watching to this episode of Extraordinary Leadership Podcast. I hope you find inspiration, insights, and ideas that can help you be more impactful and successful in leading your organization or team to the next level. Do subscribe to this channel to follow this podcast and share it with other leaders who might benefit from it too. I wish you a fantastic day, and please remember, be the change that you want to see. Until next time.